Hey guys, we are looking at Shank 2 today. Shank 2 is kind of a weird sequel. If you remember, if you ever played Shank 1, if you start playing this game, you're gonna kind of start to notice that there's not a lot of differences. You know, a lot of sequels kind of go to, we're gonna start innovating. We're gonna put in all these new features, and it almost becomes like a bullet point list of like, this is all the new stuff that we've added to our sequel. And that's kind of how developers tend to warrant making a sequel. It's like, oh, this is why you want number 2 or number 3 is because of all this new stuff that we have. In Shank 2, it's a little bit different. It's more about, it seems like, Clay, the developers, they went from something more of a, they more wanted to, like, polish, the original Shank. And so, like, about an hour ago, I went through and I played a level of Shank, and right after that played a level of Shank 2. And there's not a whole lot of stuff different. But what I did notice is, as you might see here, the controls feel a lot more fluid, and the game just is a lot smoother. There's a few little, like, tiny little changes on, like, where, like, the button mapping for controls. Just a few little differences. Instead of having a block, you now have a roll to roll out of the way. You now have a kind of the big addition to the combat system is the counter system, and you'll see that as well soon. Actually, we're gonna go to the second level. Well, I'll talk about the counter system a little bit later. So right now, in Shank 1, you kind of just, as you unlocked weapons, you could go through a level and you could switch between weapons on the fly. You can't do that in Shank 2. What you do, however, is before each level, or after you die, you have a loadout, and so I can choose, okay, which of these 3 heavy weapons do I want to use for my heavy attack? So I'm going to use machetes. What do I want for my ranged weapon? I'm going to go with throwing knives. And what do I want for my munitions? So do I want grenades, do I want mines, or do I want Molotovs? I'm going to go Molotovs. And then you can, of course, you know, if you have different outfits for Shank, you can choose different ones. So I've unlocked Defender, and I've unlocked Rex. These are not all the outfits you can unlock. There are female versions, because a little later in the game and in the survival mode, you can play as a female. Females play a lot different. They can have a scythe, as their heavy weapon. So they're a little bit different than how you would play as Shank. So we're gonna start here. But yeah, you know, visually, Shank 2 still looks really great. I think it might look a little bit better than Shank 1, although it's not noticeable to the point where you'll if you've played Shank 1 and you start up Shank 2, you're gonna be like, wow, this looks so much better. It seems to me that playing them both back to back, it seems that there is a lot more detail in the environments and levels of Shank 2, but you have a problem here, or I don't know if it really plays in this video, but the cutscenes between each level, they seem pretty compressed, so they don't look as good as, like, you kind of see. This video is very pixely, and it does not look that great, or as good as the game actually does, which is kind of disappointing, because the game does look great, and it's a very, if you're a fan of the art style, like, it looks really good. So we're gonna go ahead and skip this. There's a story in Shank 2. It's kind of there, kind of not really there. You know, you're probably not gonna like take anything away from the story, let alone remember why you're going around killing people. But whatever. Like, it doesn't really need to be there, I guess. So you see, you're seeing exclamation points appearing above these enemies' heads. So what that means is I can counter their attacks. Let's see if I can do that. So when that appears, if I just hit R2, then I just counter, and that's usually an instant death. Also new to this game, enemies drop weapons. So I can pick this up with R1. and then I can use that as my heavy weapon, and eventually that will break. I can also drop it with R1 and then pick up like a, looks like a bat. Yeah, I think that's a baseball bat. Also, this game is super brutal. Like you see the counterattacks for me, like, I think, like you see, okay, I slit the guy's throat, or the guy with the baseball bat, when I countered him, I just take the baseball bat and kick it down his throat. The way you end boss battles is extreme, like, just super brutal. But I guess that kind of gives us the name. There's a part where he, in a cutscene, he rips the jaws out of a shark. Because, why not, I guess. He's Shank. But yeah, I think controls-wise, it feels more responsive than the first Shank did. Not in a radical way. It's just like, it's just enough to where it almost feels like Shank 1 was just an early. It's almost like it's the same game, but Shank 1 is just kind of like an earlier version of the game, and now they're kind of fixing things, polishing everything up. I will say, like, the thing about this game is they tend to, like, they have some things that they improve on, and the improvements are definitely, they were things that were needed. At the same time, there are things that this game is lacking that the first game had. It's kind of weird that those things aren't in there. For instance, I mentioned this before, but I can't switch weapons. Like, you used to be able to switch your heavy weapon and your range weapons. And that was really cool. Like, I like being able to do that. In this game, you can't do that. In this game, the only time that you can change those is after you die or before a level. I think the biggest absence for me is... I'll show this a little bit later. There's no co-op mode other than survival mode. There was a co-op story mode in Shank 1. A little shorter than the actual, like, main storyline in Shank 1. But it was there, and they had bosses that were intended for co-op. And like, me and my friend played through the co-op mode, and we had a lot of fun, and it was just like a lot of fun doing that. In this game now, it's a survival mode, and the survival mode, there's 3 maps, and I think it's about 30 rounds. It's basically a horde mode from any other game. A lot of games seem to be doing that nowadays. So it's its own horde mode. It's for 30 rounds, different types of enemies each round. Sometimes there's like a boss round. And you can play two players. You can do it locally or online. Online seems fine. It seems I felt like there were occasionally parts where the game slowed down a little bit. Not overly noticeable, but it was just like, it was enough for me to notice that it was happening. At the same time, I think as far as co-op Shank goes, I think you're gonna have a lot more fun playing with someone who is sitting next to you. Online was just kind of got boring after a little while, because I wasn't playing with someone who was right next to me, and kind of laughing at how ludicrous this entire game is. At the same time, survival mode, there's only 3 maps. I would have much rather had another, like, co-op campaign than a survival mode any day. So that's single player stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and come out here. Or yes. So you can pause and change your loadout, but it's not. It seems weird that they're not letting you do that, like, in game as you're fighting. There are medals you unlock. So like, the highlight ones are the ones that I have done so far. Stuff like, I don't know, rescue 50 civilians. So I've rescued 20. Find all 24 collectible items. Found 10. Some up here. Purchase any item in survival. So that was like an easier one. Complete campaign mode on normal difficulty. Complete campaign mode on hard difficulty. things like that. Some of that will unlock new character skins or different characters. Some of these will unlock trophies, stats and leaderboards, stuff like that. There are 8 levels in the single player campaign. Game probably takes about 4 hours, I would guess. And so survival mode. So we'll jump in really quickly. Oh, we don't want to watch. Okay, so you can do a local match or you can do online quick match. Invites and all that good stuff. So I'm just gonna do a really quick local match. Maybe like 1 round or something. So these are the characters that are unlocked. So here are I'll show how the girls play now. So your heavy weapon is a sword or a scythe, and then range you have a revolver and an Uzi. So in these survival maps, there are 3 kind of stations that people are gonna invade and try to plant a bomb and blow them up. So you want to protect those, and also in between rounds, you'll be able to purchase items from a vendor who will sell you like healing items and other helpful things that might help you in survival mode, because you'll probably need it. I wouldn't really like. I wouldn't recommend playing survival mode alone, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's definitely intended to have 2 people playing. Also, there are usually traps, so you'll see here. This guy's gonna run across there. I'll hit R1, and he falls down into that. So you can use traps to your advantage. And then now it's between a round, so I can go. Eventually, I'll unlock items as the further you progress through survival mode to buy different things. So you kind of get a pretty good glimpse of like how the different characters play. A little bit different. The slice is fun to use though, so now I can go buy this tequila. There's just a healing item. And that's basically it. That is that's Shank 2. Again, it is very it's incremental and what it does to improve on Shank 1 is very much. Shank 2 is a much more polished version of Shank 1. With some weird absences, such as the no co-op campaign, which is kind of weird that it's not there, and the ability to like just you can't switch between weapons. Instead, you have the loadout, which is kind of a bummer, seeing as that was in the first game. But at the same time, the survival mode seems kind of neat. I think again, I would have taken the co-op campaign over survival mode any day. But it is there. And that that's basically it. It's not a bad game. I think if you really liked Shank 1, you'll probably like this game. It seems like a better game, but at the same time, there's not much there to improve upon Shank 1, to the point where now that it's been almost 2 years since Shank 1 came out, I kind of was hoping that there would be a little bit more to it. But that is Shank 2. Again, thank you for watching. The review should be on the site with this video as well.